Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Kind of Libertarian. Mikey Turpin, what's happening, brother?
What's up, man? How you feeling?
Allergies got me hurting, man.
Yeah,
Time of the year.
we needed just a warning, a trigger warning, potential nose bleeding, potential nose, uh, whatever snotty thing might happen. It
Rivers of
might
stuff
happen on
coming
this.
out of my
Yeah,
nose. You
yeah.
know,
Allergies have been kicking in, and I've lost my sense of taste. I don't know what's going on.
yeah. Dude, like the biggest buzzkill, the biggest cock block is allergies, man.
Oh yeah.
You're hanging out with some girl and you're like, you can't be cool, like if you're like blowing your nose. I actually remember going on a hike with this girl many, many years ago who I was kind of into. And dude, the whole hike, I could not stop blowing my nose. And then we get back to her place and she was like, hey, let's hang out. And I was so miserable. I'm like, nah, I gotta go home. It was like I blew the whole thing. I just like, what am I gonna do? Like, oh, let's make out. Oh, hold on, let me blow my nose first. It's just
No. That's actually really funny, man. That actually makes me think of a lot of things. Unfortunately, nothing like insanely comes to mind. But one time I was going to go on a date, and I had one of the most obnoxious pimples on my nose. It was
oh,
insane, dude. So what I had is I got one of my friends to put concealer on it,
oh.
but it looked great in the lighting in which we were putting it on. I'm like, wow, this looks amazing. And
Right.
then when we got to where we were going and I got to this like bar, I don't know what it looked like to her. She never made a comment. But when I went into the bathroom, I was like, oh my God, my nose, it's like obnoxious amount of like makeup look. Like it just stood out so crazy. It was terrible.
Did you acknowledge it or ignore it?
I didn't tell her at all. No, we only went out one time. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing ever, but there were other reasons why we didn't work out. But the concealer made me honestly. That probably put me in an uncomfortable place where even just the self-conscious nature, like you just knowing that you have allergies, is going to affect your ability to attract a woman, just because you're going to be insecure about it, probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it tickles in the throat, like coughing and stuff. Like when you're just like having obnoxious cough. Have you ever like gotten over a cold and you still have that like dry throat, and at any point in time you can just cough, and it like sounds disgusting? That's the worst. That's the worst for that type of situation. It's the worst for podcasts, and it's the worst for church.
Church. Okay.
Yeah, I remember like as like a kid one time I had like a tickle in my throat in church and I just could not stop coughing. I actually thought of a really good, so like in jujitsu sometimes, and believe it or not, I don't know if you get this at barber shops, when they use the razor.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I'll get like a ingrown hair, like an infected like pimple thingy
Right.
from the razor. I don't know if it's not clean or if I need to clean it the second it's done. But you get like shave bumps, but that
Yeah.
straight razor does a number sometimes on my neck. It doesn't help that I do jujitsu. So I get some on my knees, I guess, where like you rub the hair off and then it just gets like an infected, I don't know what it is. I think it's a pasty white guy thing. So I was assuming maybe you could relate, but regardless, I get these like sweat pimple things. I thought it just in this past 6 months, I came up with like a brilliant solution, putting one of those little circle band-aids on it. I don't know why I never thought of that. I'm like, oh my God, nobody's going to ask you, or they're not going to care. Or you could just say, I got a little cut, or I got a, like a little thing that
Right.
whatever it
Right.
is. It doesn't. And even if you tell them what it is, I was somebody shaving and a little shaving incident and whatever, they're not going to feel as gross as looking at this giant, practically boil, what staph infection, whatever the hell you have on you. That's so gross.
Do you think that maybe psychedelics could be a solution for this kind of thing in terms
Oh,
of the way we're so consumed by ourself? It's just like,
oh,
well, wait a minute. If I was tripping right now, I probably would not even
are you
know
ready?
or think about it.
I'll tell you this. It's funny when I have a couple memories of tripping and looking at something like a little tiny cut or a little tiny pimple on me, and it like seems so monolithic. like, oh my God, that thing looks terrible. There's this like, especially if you like pop it and there's like a tiny hole, where you can like
Oh
see
yeah.
it. I'm looking at that like, oh my God, that's like entering to my body. And I'll just like imagine it as this like volcano opening or this thing. And then I'll be like normal again and I'll look at it and it'll look fine. Your toes will really screw with you like that too. Like I have fairly okay toes, but like one of my like big nails, I don't know what it is. It sounds gross to call it fungus. That sounds so bad to be like, I have toe
You got
fungus.
talons on there.
They look better than a lot of people's I see, but there's like a thick, weirder looking thing. I'll look at my toe like tripping or something. I'll be like, God, dude, I gotta stop looking at that. But in general, I think you're right. There would definitely, it could take the edge off, but I think a lot of things might take the edge off easier, but could come with greater risk. Like, I don't know what a muscle relaxer would do or something like that, but that might be a better solution to get your pimple off your mind. I don't know.
So for everyone listening, I'm juggling a couple things right now. No, sit over here. No. Welcome to
start juggling
podcast action.
Yeah.
I'm such a badass, right? Got kids all over the place. Here, just play Minecraft. I'm the best dad. Just play Minecraft for the Mike.
Oh, that's a frustrating game. Are you good at that?
Nah, man.
That's tough.
No, it's it's hard. I think about it like right now, it's just me with 3 kids and a dog, and dude, I got it pretty good, man. Like I don't have to go into an office. I can take them back and forth to school, no problem. But then I think about there's people out there that have 2, 3 jobs, single parents. They have no help. They don't make. I mean, I make a good living. Like these people, a lot of these people don't make a good living. It's hard, man, and it's one of those things that I can never say, oh, I know what the solution is to these problems. I mean, there's various ideas that people might have, but these kinds of things, it's sad, it does get very political in that, if you see someone in a situation like that, you'll see the Democrats will be using them as a pawn, say, well, we need to help this person, and how do you plan on doing that? And then of course they can look at Republicans and they'll say, well, the Republicans don't want to help this single mom with 2 kids and 3 jobs, so they're villains. It's like, it's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. And I don't know what the solution is. I say this a lot on the podcast. I don't know what the solution is, but I like to work it out in my head, or through this podcast, we talk about things, why are people in this situation? Lack of resources, lack of education, lack of support systems, family support systems. And that's a really big part of it. If you have a strong support system within your family, you have parents, grandparents, cousins, uncles, aunts, they can all help out, but not everyone has that.
Right.
And it makes me, and that's a libertarian thing too. Definitely hear a lot of libertarians will say things like, well, it shouldn't be the government's responsibility. There are nonprofits for this. There's family. It's like, not everybody has family, or not everybody has reliable family. And not putting all those eggs in the basket of a nonprofit is absurd. Like nonprofits can't take on all that responsibility. Of course, the government, mishandles a lot of money and mishandles a lot of things too. So it's quite a conundrum. I sometimes wonder, and I'm not saying that I'm super altruistic or anything, but I sometimes think that people, hey, I'm talking while I'm doing a podcast. Millions of people are listening to this.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying. It probably wasn't that important.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was something before or after the nonprofits, but you were basically, I don't know if the specific line, but you get the idea about, you were talking about the fact that these support systems, not everyone has them, not everyone has the means to find them. The nonprofits can't take the weight of it. I don't know if there's more you want to say on that now, but I had a conversation that really reminds me of what you're talking about right before we started this podcast. Okay. I was talking to a buddy of mine who he's this type of person. He doesn't know the solution. He is my friend who I refer to a lot because he's my go-to mind and best friend when it comes to politics because I like his litmus test. He's fairly anarcho. You know, he doesn't align with a lot of the anarchists. He doesn't necessarily see it as a hard solution, but he likes the lens in which you see the problems when you view things like that. And it's still sort of searching for what the solution is. And it can't be as simple as depending on one thing to solve a problem or assuming that this one thing will fix everything. And we were talking about, he actually hit me up asking, we used to do this thing called slam poetry. We were really into it. I was on the you know, I traveled to Austin, Texas 2 years in a row for this nationals event. Him and I went up and played rooms and got to do some feature acts at you know, rooms in like New York, Rhode Island, some stuff like that. So for that scene, it's ironic because even though I only put so much into it and I was younger, it's probably as high up. Maybe jujitsu, I'm more well known, but in ways it was probably as high up as I've ever made it in the pecking order of something. Not exactly the biggest ocean to be swimming in, but we swam our way up, fortunately associated with good people in this slam poetry thing. Well, what wound up happening was he was asking me if I knew anybody in the slam poetry scene that I thought held up, like he wanted to share it for some kids, and he wanted to read them some poems from this slam poetry thing we did, and he asked if I knew anybody, and I was like, well, you know, I'm not. We started talking about some people, and a lot of them were activists. A lot of them, one of them has a TED talk now, and a lot of the people that we knew were like that, and it was like, man, so many of these people that are rallying for whatever they're standing up for, whether it's like racially charged, whether it's politically charged, whether it is maybe gender charged, all of these things that they're charged by and fueled by, which I love and respect. Like I love a Malcolm X. I love that like fight for something, right? But the problem, what they were doing was they were making it sound like this was the problem. And if only we could make people realize, if only we could make people realize this slice of oppression, this slice of inequality, if only people would realize that and atone for this or play their part of balance in this specific thing, all of life would just be solved. That, you know, there's no reason to be fighting all of these other individual fights, that not everything is so subjective. They had it all figured out through the lens of their identity, of their fight, of their cause. It'd be like me trying to say, guys, the answer is we need to wake up spiritually. We need to find our medicine. We need to go out and have these cacti ceremony. We need to go out and drink, you know, ayahuasca. We need to be in tune with Mother, you know, Earth. We need to have these retreats. We need to have yoga practice. Like maybe that solves something, right? Like nonprofit organizations can solve something. Family can solve parts of it. There's no one thing that will ever solve all of it. Awareness helps, right? And but it's just deeper than that. So like as individuals, we can only, in my opinion, we can only see so much of that forest. Whatever we can do, whatever we're charged to do, hopefully it'll help. But I think the ultimate goal with this sort of thing is being aware of having positive effect, trying to have positive effect on those. Like if you know people that are in the situation like you're talking about in your life, trying to be a little bit of a help to them, the community, that's like the values of the anarcho sort of values, which are like, you look for your community, you look for, you know, your tribalism is a bit more extreme, and it's been taken in some pretty extreme, unfortunate directions, which anarchy has as well. But the idea of a strong community, and what my recommendation is when I hear this, I think of those communities. I think of the slam poetry scene. I think of the jujitsu community. I think of the psychedelic community. And if you don't have family that can help, if you don't have that sort of thing, you might not have the time to find an easy support system, but looking for a support system. I think of the support system of AA. What a powerful support system. If you are willing to show up and be a part of that community, it will change your life, right? Like not only will it change your life as far as addiction is concerned, those people are willing to help you. Somebody out there is willing to help you if you're willing to play synergy to that community and play role and do your part. Easier said than done, and it's only one piece of it. But when I hear this, I think of getting involved in something because that's what I've always done. I even think of the dog fashion disco community I was in. Now, could they help me out financially if I was in trouble? Maybe not. But I could think of people just involved in that little tight-knit cult community of people and being a good friend to these people, being a good community member, what they would do for me if I was in a time of need, if I really needed help. So when I hear something like that, I think of strong community and being an important, strong role in others' lives in a community and doing what you can, and then having the favor return, that sort of karma. Not easy to do. And I don't know, maybe you got to look for like your Facebook groups. You got to look outside the box, maybe, if you don't have the time or the space to do something. But like the church is there for people, churches, synagogue, whatever you do, they're typically there for people in need. As long as, I mean, it's not like something you want to just agree to anything, because I'm sure the KKK is that way with their people too, right? You know, but that's what I think of. I don't know if how much that ties in, but I was just thinking of that kind of stuff today. So it's funny you mentioned that.
Well, I do. I mean, I think community is very important. And I think we lack that,
Yeah.
compared to the stories I heard from my parents and my grandparents when they were growing up. And community was always very tight knit, and they always helped each other out. There's never a situation where there wasn't someone there to take care of the kids. Now again, they were very fortunate. I mean, my parents and grandparents weren't rich. I mean, they were mostly, my mom's side, they were all farmers. And my dad's side, my grandfather, I don't even think he finished high school. He just started working when he was like 16. So he just hustled his whole life. But see, and this is where it gets slippery. You get that slippery slope, because the government comes in and says, "Well, we want to fix this problem." By the government, I say individuals, within the government, and that's fine. I get it, wanting to do that, but it's just time after time after time. It's like those good intentions don't always pan out the way they should. You know, So I don't know if you saw it this week. Biden was saying that he wants to do this thing where they're going to outlaw menthol cigarettes. Did you see that?
I did. Usually it's funny. My first thought when you said that is my answer for this is almost always no. So I get to play the buffer of like the people who don't know. I get to be like, no, Jeff, I don't know. Tell me. I did hear that, but go on.
Well, yeah. So basically, his point was the cigarette companies have been marketing to and targeting Black communities for decades, in terms of selling menthol cigarettes. So he's saying we should ban them to help the Black community. But if you outlaw them, people are still going to smoke them. So now you're going to send cops in, as if the Black community doesn't have enough problems with the cops coming in all the time. Oh, I smell weed. Oh, I smell menthol cigarettes. Oh, what do you got on you? Oh, a knife, a gun, a flamethrower. Oh, you're going to go to jail now. It's like, and like the cops really want to bust people for menthol cigarettes. And understand, I fucking hate cigarettes. I fucking hate cigarettes so much. I think they're the dumbest things. I always think it's funny that you'll see musicians that are like, fuck the man or whatever, and they're smoking cigarettes. I'm like, dude, you're giving money to the man to kill you. Like it's supposed to be so rebellious, this idea of smoking, but it's like the antithesis of being rebellious, So
That's a point right there, dude. There's a punk rock song in that. That's a great point.
Because I used to have this sweatshirt,
wow,
with a picture of the Marlboro Man on his horse, and it said, "I miss my lung, Bob." It was kind of like a play on it.
yeah.
I always hated that. I'm like, why are you smoking cigarette after cigarette after cigarette? There's nothing badass about that. And of course, menthols on top of that. It's like, oh, here's some shards of fiberglass to put in your lungs. That's a great idea. But
Yeah.
anyway, look,
No, you're
again,
right.
if you want to do that, that's up to you. Now, is it fucked up that the tobacco companies were targeting Black communities for this? Fuck yeah, it's fucked up. It's fucked up that any industry that creates something that can physically harm somebody can market to those people. I mean, we do it with kids and food. How many commercials do you remember growing up for Ronald McDonald or McDonald's? You know, you think that shit's good
Yeah.
for kids? Fuck no. All that food is fucking poison. The food we eat, you know, the video games that kids watch for 8 hours a day, that's fucking poisonous. You know, and we advertise to them no problem. But now for some reason we're trying to save Black people from menthol cigarettes. Get the fuck out of here. Come
Yeah,
on.
well, I mean, look at it like this, okay? Everything is marketed to its own niche audience, right? Sometimes the audience finds it and then it caters more to that.
Yeah.
But we're silly if we think cigarettes only market to Black people. For instance, you just said the Marlboro Man. Who is that marketing to? Who is or Winston cigarettes marketed to? Who's Misty? Who's Virginia Slims? Who are they marketed to? I used to work behind a register. I could tell you every single one who they're marketed to, and I can read it clear as day on the box. I know a person. If somebody's walking up the counter to buy cigarettes, I almost always know when it's not for them and it's for their husband. Not quite, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there is an obvious market in all of this. And we're so stupid. We are so stupid to think that the issue is the menthol and the cigarettes when it's so obvious that it's the cigarettes. Now, is the solution to ban them? No. I mean, look, things are geared towards, they make big league chew that looks like chewing tobacco for kids, and it's baseball oriented because there are baseball players who spit tobacco. We make candy. We used to make candy cigarettes. Now,
Yeah.
now who's that marketed to? Now, I get that stuff like that gets outlawed and whatever, but it's beating around the main problem. The main problem is we have this platform to manipulate, to and then we raise the money on it, and nobody cares. This is the thing: nobody cares about the cigarette people, right? So they become slaves to 70 something, how many ever different chemicals that are addictive on top of
Right.
nicotine that's put in these damn cigarettes, right? And then they say, you know what? Who really cares if they raise the tax on cigarettes? Fuck those people for smoking anyway, you know?
Right.
Like, and I find myself doing that. I find myself not caring about cigarette shit. Like, I'm like, well, whatever. If they're going to tax something, tax that. If they're going to increase the price of something, that, because I forget to empathize and have compassion for the act of smoking. I hate cigarettes. I've smoked one cigarette in my whole entire life. Okay. It's just not, it's nothing appealing to me, but yeah, it's interesting. It's weird, the things that get people into it. It's rooted into us and all that. And then this gets to be some heroic thing. This gets to be some heroic liberal thing to say, we're going to do this for the Black community. And they're ultimately really doing nothing for them. What are they really accomplishing by doing that?
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just like, of all the things you're gonna do,
Exactly.
now there is evidence. There is evidence that menthol cigarettes have been deliberately marketed to the Black community. I mean,
Now,
there's
how does that work? I mean, I don't know. Phil, do
I
you
don't
know how that
know
works?
however they
I'm sure it is, you know.
how they marketed, but there's some documents that showed these guys who were like, yeah, it's like I could be. Michael Rappaport always says this on his podcast. He's like, uh, I'm not fact checking, okay,
Yeah.
but from what I understand, um, they were maybe the menthols were popular in the Black community, so they just kept targeting menthols. Because listen, as the years have gone by, there have been less and less sales of menthol cigarettes because more and more people are like, this is like the worst fucking cigarette you could smoke. Um, so there is evidence that they were deliberately
Right.
marketing to the Black community. But again, see, this is the thing with Biden before. He's like, he's doing it in the name of equality or criminal justice reform or trying to help the Black community. I'm like, if you want to help the Black community end the war on drugs, that's going
Yeah.
to do a lot more good than banning menthol cigarettes, which isn't
My,
going to do any good. All it's going to do is get more people arrested.
my question is this: is it wrong to market menthol cigarettes to black people? Is it, I mean, we market a lot of things to different people. Well, I mean, I guess maybe we live in a day and age where it's probably not a good idea to market something based solely off of race, but we don't single that out in other things, you know? I mean, we don't single that out in other pockets of things, whether it's restaurants, whether it's clothing. What is wrong about it? And we would say, oh, it's because what? They're dangerous. It's because they have additional, what makes it wrong to do it?
Well, we do. I mean, we do market to different races and genders. I mean, if you go into the black community, there's certain posters at a liquor store that you'll see that you won't see in the white community.
Right. Now, so what is wrong about marketing menthol cigarettes to
So
black people?
I don't. It depends what you define as wrong. See, for me, ethically, I have a problem marketing anything that is physically harmful to people. I'm
Right.
not saying you have the personal sovereignty. You do whatever you want. That's your body. Um, and legally, like these companies, in my opinion, have every right to market in any way they want. I think it's really shitty.
Yeah.
I think it's really unethical to do that when you're running a company. And that's the thing I talk a lot about. We talk about uh, socially conscious investing or socially conscious business practices. I feel like if I were, see, it's hard to say, like if I was running a cigarette company, knowing that marketing to people, see, I don't know. I don't really know how they market anymore, though. It's a lot of lots changed. I mean, it used to be a time you could see cigarette ads everywhere. I don't know how they do
Joe
it.
Camel. Joe Camel was the coolest thing growing up to me, by the way. And it's the reason why my brother wound up smoking Camel cigarettes. We thought Joe Camel was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, they definitely cut back on marketing in general with cigarettes, what they're allowed to do. I don't even know what they're able to sponsor anymore. Like you don't really see them involved in much. But at the end of the day, so long as the product is legal, which I get that they're trying to ban it, they're banning it for odd reasons. But what is the issue? And what would the solution to that issue being? If the issue is that they're marketing something that's unhealthy, why isn't the solution to just not allow this unhealthy thing, which I still wouldn't necessarily agree with, right?
Mhm.
But how does this actually fit the situation appropriately? Even if you're on team ban cigarettes because they're bad, ban menthol because it's dangerous, this is just such an odd, this is the state in which we live in, because it's so much more of a hot topic issue when we say it like that, you know?
See, and you're right. It's weird. Like, why? Like, I don't even remember this being an issue. Like, maybe
Yeah.
the community has been an issue because people are like, look, too many people are smoking menthols in the black community. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, dude. Black people have definitely, something's been Newport. I don't know what, I don't know how, but they found their audience. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's that way. Not everybody, right? White girls who like to date black guys smoke them as well. No,
Mhm.
no, just no. That's terrible. Dump button. But I mean, it's like, yeah, somehow they figured it out. They did something, but I mean, what makes it, are they doing it because they want to kill them off? They want to market the more harmful ones to the community and like the less harmful ones
I don't think
to,
that's it because they need their, I mean, that's how they make money. They want to kill their customer. I mean, they are
right,
killing their customer eventually over time.
right. I just don't even get how it's a problem.
It's suspicious. That's all I'm saying. It's suspicious to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
I
again,
get that it's a problem, but I'm saying I don't even fully understand how it's any different of a problem than we already deal with across the board with almost everything dangerous that probably we should be cautious about selling.
well,
Marketing something bad is already a slippery slope ethically.
what do you think is more, and I don't know the answer to this question. I could look it up, but I don't feel like it,
Yeah.
is more dangerous. Um,
Hmm.
Smoking cigarettes, or let's say I mean, emphysema and lung cancer. Those are the two big things you get from smoking cigarettes, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Versus obesity.
Yeah.
What's killing more people in this country? I don't know the answer to that question. I feel like
Oh,
it's
more or obesity.
it's probably smoking, but
Ooh.
it's probably pretty damn close too.
what I would guess, what I would guess is that obesity is an indirect sort of synergy that plays a role in a lot of issues. For instance, with COVID, this is not just a COVID thing. The risk of obesity affecting COVID is not just a COVID thing. That is an everything thing. That is, you are compromised and you have a negative synergy attached to almost every health issue you could ever have, ever. It probably is a greater risk to be obese and smoke cigarettes than it is to not be obese and smoke cigarettes. That is not medical information. Don't take it to the bank. But I mean, yeah, I would say for me, I would guess, again, because in general, it also depends on the amount you're smoking. It also depends on the amount you were obese, right? There's so much gray area to this,
Yeah.
but I would probably imagine that obesity at this day and age has to be a bigger issue in the States.
Mhm.
In America, if I had to weigh the two, and it seems like smoking is sort of dying out, no pun intended. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like less and less people are smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Although the juke things and all that vaping and stuff, I mean, who knows what's going to come of that. I'm sure at the very least there's stuff that is not healthy about them that we don't fully know, that we will eventually have to modify, and then I'm sure we'll make it unhealthy in some other way or come up with some other option that will
Right.
kill us as well.
But see, that's an interesting point you bring up, though, because with the vaping thing, welcome to my
We
world.
got fans.
In the vaping world, it's kind of like a lot of adults vape because it helps them get off of cigarettes. But then again, here we go, the marketing thing. So for Juul marketing to kids for a long time, that's fucked up, man. That's a really
Yeah.
shit thing to do.
That's a good point too. A lot of things are marketed in age categories, and it's really weird that when you see things like marketed for kids, that is like that's screwed up. I mean, it's screwed up to market stuff specifically to Black people too. That's dangerous. I get it. I definitely get it. I'm not trying to say it's not an issue.
Right. But if you're an adult, you make your own decision. It doesn't matter what color you are.
Oh, I think about this stuff all the time, man. How screwed up is it that we oversee? This is a slope that you could go on forever, because I think about this with like even something like the ethics of marketing a product that is based off of slave labor, where large amounts of death is involved. Sometimes things are just too heavy for people to accept. Lithium ion. Now, as far as I know, this is still the case. It's one of the bloodiest markets there are, right?
It's actually cobalt. So when you
Is
talk
that
about,
what it is? You know more than me. Go on, because I knew this was your field.
yeah,
How corrupt is our cell phone batteries? There are a lot of people dying over getting them, right?
sure. So here's the thing about that. At least when you think about the materials that are used to make cell phone batteries or electric vehicle batteries, there is a change happening. So you're seeing more and more companies that are seeking to source these materials from mining operations that don't use slave labor, that do it in an environmentally responsible way. So even Elon Musk, who's saying, he's hoping that they'll get to the point ultimately where all the cobalt they source will come from places that they can prove that's like this, no child labor, no slave labor, done environmentally correct. If we move in that direction, that's fantastic. I think it would really be important for us to do that. In the U.S., this seems to be a big thing in the U.S. and Western Europe, Canada. But if you go to India or China, they're like, we don't give a fuck where it came from. Slaves are what? Slaves are normal to us. You bring up a very good point. Give me 1 second here.
You're good. This podcast is recorded in front of a live audience. Yeah.
So the slave labor thing is actually a very interesting part of it. We were talking about with the cobalt and the slave labor, and there's a lot of stuff that happens. Oftentimes we'll say we want to get our things from companies that are socially conscious, that don't use slave labor, that take care of the environment. And oftentimes those companies have to sell their products at a higher price because they have to pay actual workers a real wage as opposed to nothing, which for
Yeah.
slaves or a couple of pennies. So it brings up a really good point, is like, what are we willing to do? Because I feel like in this country, it's like it's all about the price. We would easily say, I'll pay 20% less, um, or better, let me rephrase that. I'm not willing to pay 20 to 30% more for something, um, if it means that it came from a company that didn't have slave labor, or didn't,
Right.
and that really shows you what's important in this country,
Yeah.
what you want to pay for something versus the livelihoods of people. Um, and I mean, I think I'm guilty of it too. I mean, I really try hard to buy all my food locally. And when I do make a large purchase, I do consider these things, but there's nothing that's completely environmentally benign,
Yeah.
or just, get buying something from a company. At some point in the manufacturing process, or the resource, moving the resources from point A to point B, and developing those resources, somebody got fucked along the way. That's just how
Uh-huh.
it is. I don't say it's right. I don't think it's a good thing. I really would like to see more of the woke people talk more about that. They're very quick to sit there and like shit on people who are rich. But again, it's like, you have an iPhone, you have a computer, where do you get your food? Where do you buy your clothes? How many people really take the time to figure that out? Oh, well, it's too expensive. If I buy these jeans are $70. Well, yeah, they were made in the US, and they provided employment for people in this country, and they also recycle or do whatever it is to make themselves a good company. But I can get these other jeans over here for $40. Okay, they were made by slaves,
Right.
but dude, it's like I saved $30.
Yep. I say it like this. It's like, it's great that you wear your mask and you go out and you save lives. And it's great that you stop buying Chick-fil-A, but you flick your cigarette butts in the street and you drive drunk. Like, but, and what you were saying about the things you do, it's good to be aware that you inevitably are a part of problems, sometimes ignorantly, hopefully more ignorantly than out of choice. Right. But you need to balance it with positive effect. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. It reminded me, it's like, I feel so strongly, it's more about trying to make decisions that have positive effect than being black and white 100%, as like if solving all of the problems, or doing your part to do the things that are within your means to have a positive effect. Whether it's bringing a bag with you and picking up trash when you go on your walks, spreading the word of how, whether it's health conscious stuff like, hey, minerals are no longer in the soil, so we're not getting these minerals, we're not getting this. Just spreading healthy information to people. Plastics in products, carcinogens in receipt paper. Hey, watch this documentary that's health conscious. There's so many things. Switching to straws because you feel so. Earth Day just happened not that long ago, so I saw all this stuff on my feed, and my friends, my more conscious friends of that nature, were sending me a lot of information, and it's definitely things to consider. And I just think that you have to be aware. You can't ignore that you're a part of the problem. You can't ignore that we use cell phone batteries that potentially do this, right? We can't ignore that the rubber and tire, whatever it is, but exhaust in our cars. But we don't have to crucify ourselves. We don't have to convict ourselves of heinous acts, so judgmentally. We are inevitably a part of the problem, but what we need to do is be conscious of it, do what we can, and find our pockets of positive effect. You have got to find your way to have strong positive effect. And it is as simple as, like I said, for some people, it's volunteering their time, dedicating lots of things. Some people donate their hair. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that I do believe that as long as you are doing something like the slam poetry people, with some of them are so into certain things, like this one lady we were talking about, she got a TED talk talking about like racial inequality and oppression and self-love and all these sorts of things. And it's like, that is her fight. You have a very strong effect on green energy. You have a very strong effect on politics. You try to do other stuff, right? but we can't do it all. You could never do it all.
Right. And that's hard for me, man, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I stress a lot when I see things and I'm like, I want to do something about this. And sometimes I have to be like, dude, like you can't. You have to stop. I tell myself, you have to stop. You have no more time to do
You
this.
got 3 kids and a dog. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. I run what my job is. I work as an investment analyst and I focus on um this idea of socially responsible investing. So I do a lot of stuff, and part of what I do is in clean energy. And with the service that I run, I do an annual meeting where once a year I host a meeting. Any member of my group can come free of charge. I mean, if they get there, but free of charge, they come to the event. And I have CEOs of the companies we've invested in come and speak to the group. They can talk to them. They can have one-on-one meetings with them. A lot of people really like these meetings, and I like doing it because one of the things I like about my job is that I get to help retail investors, just regular everyday people, go in the same room that is typically only available for institutional investors, millionaires and billionaires. I like to blur those lines because I don't think it's fair that because someone only has $1,000 to invest, that like they can't ask her question. Fuck that. That thousand
Right.
dollars to that individual could be a lot more, in terms of like what they bring in to Elon Musk, who wants to invest $5 million in something. So I like doing that. But when someone joins my group, I always say, these are the cities we're looking at this year for our meeting. Any of them, do any of these cities, vibe with you? I don't say it like that. I'm like, yeah, which would you prefer?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this woman emailed me last week, and she was like, she's like, why are you doing meetings in different places and having people travel? That's so bad for the climate. And you say you're all about clean energy, like exclamation point. And the funny thing was, I was like, and I responded to her very calmly saying, look, this is something that we've been doing for a long time that, our members expect. It's something they get value. It's a way I can bring value to my clients, and I know that I can't control how people get to these destinations, but I do try to make them a little more, I try to be conscious of the things that I can be conscious of. So for instance, I never do these events at a hotel. I will find 1 second. They don't listen.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second, please.
The caveat of being a cool dad.
I just scream, shut the fuck up to my kids.
Yeah. I could read the lips. I was
Anyway,
like, oh, I saw
so
that one.
what I do is, so like I don't have at the hotels. I'll find like a local place that rents out a room. So there's all kinds of companies that rent out like the back room of a restaurant, or someone has like a lounge or something like that they rent out. And by doing that, I feel like I'm putting money into the local economy,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel goes a little bit further. And one thing I never do is I never use, one of the reasons I don't like hotels is using their catering services. So anytime I have something catered, I always go to a local restaurant and I go to local farms, and I source all of our food from places that use organic, regenerative agriculture. I
Mm-hmm.
make sure that everything's as clean as possible. These aren't big things, okay? It just takes a little extra time to do it. But that's it. Just like you were saying, it's like just picking up trash on the side of the road or doing something simple. I'm not going to stop doing these events because they're very important to people, and it's part of what they pay for. So I'm not going to stop doing it, but I will make every effort to ensure that we limit our footprint, our negative environmental footprint. So with the food is a big one for me. I always try to find a place too that is near a lot of hotels so people can walk to the destination. That's a big thing too, man. People ask me a lot. They'll say, well, listen, I don't have a lot of money. I can't afford an electric car or solar panels. What can I do to help? And my number one thing all the time is walk. If you
Yeah.
have to go
Wow.
somewhere that is within 2 miles and you are a healthy person, walk. Because
Yeah.
seriously, like, why are you going to start your car to drive, 2 miles or less to pick something up, go to the grocery store or something, or go to the corner store? Just walk. It's better for you. you get your
Yeah.
exercise that you need that you're probably not getting anyway, and you're not using your car. That's a big thing. Um, I'm telling you, man, it's not that hard to not treat the planet like a toilet. You know what I mean? It's not difficult. You just got to make some fucking effort.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's making an effort. Things are gonna slip through the cracks. Someone listening to this might be like, well, I can't walk with this or I can't do that. Right. But you can do something else, right? You can be a positive effect. Like having this conversation, not everyone's going to be conscious of the same things. This might have nothing. Well, this definitely has nothing to do with green energy. But for instance, some people lend their time and coach a team and are involved in the youth. There's so many things. um, I like to share the information I know. Not everyone's going to want to hear it. Not everyone's going to be interested, but somewhere, someone out there is dealing with injuries. They're dealing with issues that I have some sort of expertise or insight on. And I use my platform, the one social media, my Instagram that we connected over. I use it as a platform to share information and to also share others who do that sort of thing. So I always want to, if I see somebody and it's like, wow, they're giving great information. It's not a sales tactic. It's just what they know. They're passionate, like-minded sort of person. Boom, try to get it out to my people. It's only such a reach, but it's like, that is something that I feel strongly about. I have no regrets not making a single dime off of something like that. And I put a lot of my energy and time into it. And same thing within my communities. If I'm at the jujitsu gym and somebody has some sort of tweak, I'm the first person to raise my hand. Hey, if you want some help, if someone to take a look, I'm not going to try and claim I'm going to completely fix you, but I'm willing to give it a try. Don't worry about it. Like, it's not a business practice right now. It is
I think
part
we,
of the way I am. I don't want to. Oh, are you there?
yeah, we for like the last maybe 10 seconds, you,
Oh, okay. I just was saying that I like to be that role within my community of just generally trying to uplift. I sometimes it's a business. Sometimes I'm marketing myself to make money off of this sort of thing. But there are also a lot of times where I couldn't care less if I'm spending my time doing this because it's something I can be helpful in. When I was younger, I had a car issue. I ran off the road, tire bend. It needed a bunch of things. A guy up the street, he worked on the side as a mechanic. He was a helpful guy. He did it for free. He just, all I had to do was buy the parts. He did it for free. It didn't hesitate 1 second. When he had the time, when he could do it, he was going to do it. He wanted to do it. He didn't know me from Adam. He barely knew me. He just
wow,
knew I was a guy in the community who needed it. He also does tree work for a living. On his street, across the street, the church, he's not even religious. He does free tree work for the church across the street.
awesome.
That's what I mean about community. And these are the traditions that we are losing. So that's actually something my anarchist friend mentioned to me today when we were talking about this. He says he's very conservative in the sense of everybody trying to ruin tradition, to change tradition in ways completely. But like there are a lot of things, for instance, community values that we are losing. And there are a lot of things that we don't realize are strongly negatively affecting our 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 lives as people, our ability to uplift each other, help each other. I mean, it's not as simple as keeping all traditions, but I like that sense of community.
Some traditions you kind of want to get rid of.
Yeah, I think you don't want to be a purist on that one, but
Dude, I remember when I found out that I was going to be a father to two boys, and telling people in my
but you have twins.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't. I maybe I knew that, but I forgot.
yeah, and I remember telling people in my immediate family and community that I was not going to have them circumcised. To me, that's a barbaric tradition. I have no interest in it. I think it's despicable.
Yeah,
And they're like, but it's tradition. And I'm like, dude, it's mutilation. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Oh, it's cleaner. No, it's not. There's tons of studies that have been shown that's not true. But the whole thing was, but it's tradition. That was the excuse. But it's tradition. And I'm like, I'm not going to cut my kid's dick. because you said
Right.
it's tradition, you know? And
I
it's like,
know.
oh, when they do it in Africa to girls, then it's barbaric. But in this country, if you do it to white boys, well, it's tradition. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
that's true. No, I hear that one. And it's funny because it's funny the things that we have hangups over. Like I'm that way with women in body hair. I respect it. But if I see a big bushy armpit,
I'm with you.
it's just not, I'm just not that attracted to it. I thought maybe it's something I'd be willing to compromise on, but it's a pretty heavy compromise. Like I'd be willing to date a girl who has a prosthetic leg, but you know what I mean? It's
Dude,
going to take a little bit of mental gymnastics.
I would take a prosthetic leg over hairy armpits
Me
or
too.
hairy legs or hairy bush any day of the week. And if that makes
Me
toxic
too.
masculinity, then so be it.
I know. I know. I don't know what your boy's hearing this, but when the bush goes way too far south and wraps all the way up, I'm like, oh my God. Like I remember I dated a chick who just had the most amazing butt ever. The most amazing butt. And I'm like, oh my God, it's ruined. It went from being the best butt to the worst butt ever. Like, keep your panties on. That's terrible. But I mean, it's funny, but I also am aware and do have a sliver of guilt. And I do get that this is not the future. This sort of idea is something that likely is going to change, and it would be a change for the better. Circumcised penises being looked at the way they are is going to hopefully change as we become more conscious. I am in a different mindset because it's just what I know, to have this giant circumcised. No, but but circumcision is so normal to me, and I've thought about this, and I've actually kind of thought, you know what, I would be on your team. I'm on team no circumcision. The more I've heard about it, the more people I've heard talk, be very adamant about it. But it is funny. It's a mental hang up. I'm sure there are women out there who are like, I would never want to date a guy who has an uncircumcised penis. But times will change, and you're a part of that positive change. It sounds silly. It sounds so silly to say that is a kind of a heroic thing to stand up for,
Yeah,
right? But again, you found a fight that you believe in strongly enough to say, you know what? Screw this norm. Screw this one. I'm not doing that because I don't believe in it. And that is what is missing in a lot of people.
right.
And
Well,
I like that.
the thing, it's interesting though, to go back to the pubic hair thing.
Yeah.
I caught so much shit about that. And this woman I know I've been friends with for years, she's just like, I just don't understand it, Jeff. You seem so like open-minded. I'm like, it has nothing to do, like you said, I don't care what you do. Okay. I just know what I'm attracted to. Like, I personally, I don't like skinny women. Like, I like women with curves.
Yeah.
That's what I find attractive. I don't like hair. I don't like a lot of body hair. I don't find attractive. Even before I ever saw, porn with women with no, pubic hair.
Right.
Never. I mean, it was there. I'm like, But like then when I realized as I got older, I remember the first girl I slept with who was like completely shaved. I was like, oh, I love this. And and I always think too, um, a conversation that you and I have to have later.
Oh,
Because
okay. Yeah.
bottom line is I will spend far more time below the border with my
Uh-huh.
face if there's no hair. If you
Right.
picking up what I'm putting,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Um, and it's funny. What the irony is that we're always in flux of like moving away from traditions that are very excluding other sensitivities, but almost always the solutions we come up with are riddled with problems. Like we have these things that are what we are attracted to, right? We find the flaws in them, so we find something new that we find attractive, right? And it's this sort of game. But we're in a time where it is worse to say that you are not a fan of hair than it would be to just be somebody who looks at, we were talking about, pornography, right? Of age discrepancies that are inappropriate. One of the biggest norms right now is one of the most insanely unethical things, right? So, I mean, we can't get too into that one, obviously, but you get what I'm going at, right? That is insane to me. The level of how we see something, well, this is unethical, but then again, we're missing the bigger picture. Is that there's a lot more. Typically, there's something bigger going on, and this little thing that we have a hang up over. Who really cares if Jeff prefers girls with curves? What's the big deal?
I mean, I don't know why anyone would care, you know?
But there are people out there who would, that you're influencing insecurities in others, or
Yeah.
whatever. And I mean, I don't know, it's an odd one. People are sensitive to that sort of thing, like you said. Well, somebody gave you crap about it, that with the hair thing, somebody gave you crap about the hair thing. But we can
Yeah.
only get so specific on this one.
Yeah. I mean, we're very sensitive world today. And I don't think it's such a horrible thing to be sensitive to certain things. It's just kind of like, at what point do you go from being sensitive to just being compliant? Just
Yeah.
going along with something just because someone says, well, if you don't go along with this, then you're not woke, or whatever the word is, and that's, yeah, I'm not gonna make a big stink about it. It's not like a hill I'm gonna die on, but I don't care. It's like, it's
Yeah.
definitely something that, again, we see the right and left battle all the time. The right say, well, we're not, it's making fun of people because you're too woke, and the left's like, well, you're not woke enough. And I'm like, why? This
Yeah.
is the dumbest conversation we could possibly be having right now. With all
Yeah.
the shit that's going on in the world, you're talking about, well, they're not. Now, okay, let me rephrase that. I understand that words have can have words can hurt. You know, so I mean, I understand that. Calling someone a certain name that could be derogatory to them, or just saying something that's just offensive. I think it's good to take note of those things, because why would you want to purposely insult somebody unless you're pissed off at them, or unless you're telling a joke?
Right.
And that's the weird thing too. It's like, I kind of feel bad for comedians, because
I was just thinking of
nowadays it's
comedians.
like, you say, if you're a comedian and you say something they say it's inappropriate. If I know that person's a comedian, like, I don't even give it a second of thought. It's like, well, they're a comedian. That's what they do. Now, if you're not a comedian, and you're just saying something to be a dick, that's different. I don't know where you draw the line. Is it what's the professional, an amateur comedian, whatever? But I guess I'm just talking about people on, like, social media. They're trying to be like, I'm not woke, so I'm gonna say this or that. It's like, dude, why? Why? You're just, for no reason, you're just being a dick. You know?
Yeah, what I kind of chalk it up is, I just think it's good to keep in mind that a lot of the things we are venomous over, and a lot of the things we attack and don't like and are sensitive to, we need to tread just a little bit lightly, with a little bit of understanding, because chances are we are being a hypocrite in some way. Like, a lot of the things we have talked about is being aware of our own hypocrisy within the things that we are critical of, right, and sensitive to. It's being aware of the hypocrisy of being health conscious, earth conscious in these ways, but not being it in those ways. It's being aware that, yes, maybe I'm sensitive to jokes about weight, body weight, right? But then I'm willing to laugh and be a part of jokes about AIDS, right? I mean, you get the idea, right? It's not like the most obvious connection of hypocrisy, but it's this sort of loose hypocrisy makes us just lighten up a little bit and realize that we're not everyone's in tune and sensitive in the same way, I think.
So, I was working on this joke this week, and this guy at my gym, we always joke around about stuff, and sometimes I'll run some jokes by him. And I was running, and it's not even close to done, but I was running this idea by him, and he thought it was, I mean, he kind of like laughed, kind of like almost a pity laugh. I don't think he really thought it was that funny. But this woman who was standing there, I could tell that she was offended by the joke. And actually, you know what, Mike? I am going to pull this up, and I'm
Okay.
going to run it by you, and you tell me if you think it's offensive. I thought it was funny. I kind of make fun of everybody, you know,
Right.
do these things, including myself as a scrawny white Jewish kid. I mean, you know how many jokes I can come up with about being a strong white Jewish kid, a scrawny white Jewish kid? Lots of virgin jokes, lots of
Yeah.
unable to
Yeah.
say jokes come out of that. Okay, here we go. And this is kind of like I've been trying to do this thing where it is kind of like a SNL, the news bits that they do. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about? All right. Now bear with me because this is not even close to done. Katie Sorensen, a social media influencer on motherhood topics, was recently busted for lying about a Latino couple trying to abduct her children. What tipped off the cops? No Latino couple would ever try to abduct a rich white kid. They serve no value. I mean, have you ever seen a Latino family? By age 5, those kids are earning, doing odd jobs, fixing shit, providing tutoring services for white people plagued with white guilt. You'll never find a rich white 5-year-old doing anything helpful. The most helpful thing I've ever seen a rich white 5-year-old do is shut the fuck up for 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So no, I mean, all right, I'm good at playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in my mind, I can see how somebody could possibly find it offensive, but it is so silly because it's like it's such an obvious light as far as like the joke is the point. It's not the parts of it that you could say, yeah, but you're marginalizing this, and there are people out there who abduct kids and then they maybe try to make money, or maybe whatever direction they take it. And I could see the directions people take it, but it is insane.
And now here's the thing. In all fairness, I have not finished the jokes. I want to add another part to it about that takes it a little more seriously. Is if you think about, so this woman who did this, she's up for 2 misdemeanor charges. Had she gotten away with this, that Latino couple, they'd be doing time, 100%. And she gets 2 misdemeanor charges for doing this. Like that's some racist shit right there.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to. I'm trying to figure out how to make that funny, but it's not.
What if, oh my God, dude, what if your shtick was that you like went up there and told like a joke about something, but then you wanted to make people socially conscious of like the brevity in the topic that you're talking about? Like,
Right,
caveat to that joke about AIDS. Look, we make a lot of joke about AIDS. We act like it's not a problem anymore, but here's the truth about AIDS. And you go on like your little stuff, and then you're back to telling jokes. Like, what if
right.
every joke came with its like socially woke disclaimer?
A
Like,
little tagline at the end.
yeah, I liked
Sick. They could.
my favorite. I never really had edgy topic matter, but I would like to make things based around things that are kind of offensive. Like I had these series of jokes that I would like do like one-liners, and I would kind of like say that they're offensive, right? And one of them was like, do you think it's kind of funny, or I think it's kind of funny how many black and white movies came out during segregation, and like and it would be like something like that, but there's absolutely nothing about that that's literally rooted in making a racist joke, right? But it involves race heavily. I would even do it like it was a series. Like one was like you know if I smacked you in your throat as hard as I could, you might be a redneck. And then I'd say like, if you are a Native American, you might be a redneck, right? Like that is like a racially that or whatever that is a joke that, but people would get offended by stuff like that just because the topic matter and the association and the framework of the joke were, it's like absurdist sort of thing. Zach Galifianakis had a joke that I loved, and it was I'm making a combination of MAD and the NAACP, Mothers Against the Advancement of Colored People. Just this like absurd sort of like reversal. And I mean, it is obviously so offensive if you take it a certain way. But then it's so absurd that like that is part of the humor of it, right? Like it's this weird, what do you do with that sort of thing? Because you can take that thing far, but it's way worse when somebody goes out there and they're kind of doing like an Andrew Dice Clay and they make a joke about like black people not tipping or something. And you're like, whoa, dude, like that's not cool. The brevity of it's not, it is extreme in some ways, but the intention is the problem. Like your intention has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with anything. It's like it's such just a little silly thing about how spoiled brat sort of thing, first world sort of kids, etc. You get it. You wrote the joke. But like, what do you do about jokes like that that have nothing to do with being I just think of the intention. I'm like, wow, that's a racist telling jokes.
Yeah.
Or wow, that's like an absurd person making silly jokes. Or that's a person. I think of it more of like a style of humor. Or I think of, wow, that person's really sexist. They just told a joke that was so fucking sexist. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
I think the personality.
it's definitely, I think, if you are a white male, I mean, there are more minefields there for that, which
Yeah.
I understand completely. I mean, how many years did white dudes go up and tell jokes that were like legitimately, like intentionally, like you said, intentionally offensive? It,
Yeah.
probably hundreds. So I understand it and I get it. And I try to be conscious of those things. When I write something, I'm like, okay, is this funny or is this funny at the expense of somebody else? I don't want it to be funny at the expense of anyone else unless it's me or like maybe
Right.
somebody I know that's in on the joke. I think when that specific joke was kind of like, it was really just kind of like observational more than anything.
Yeah, your joke reminds me what you just said, and it actually ties back into what I kind of thought, like what your sense of humor reminds me of. It's kind of like this, not as like broy and like jockey and whatever is like a Daniel Tosh,
Mhm.
and but it has like it's like that is like a popular one that a lot of people know. Talk Soup had that sort of thing, or like a even like maybe on SNL when they have the news anchors sitting up there and they make like the little comment after they tell the news story. Like that's the type of joke that I think of when you told me that.
Yeah,
I think of somebody making an SNL joke. They present the topical thing and then they make the little joke, and that how could that possibly be an offense? It's such an obviously light as far as the heaviness of like the offense. It's
right.
so, yeah, I can't believe that, man. But yeah, some people just they don't have that sort of critical view. So if you just say a couple hot words like buzzwords, like oh, making a joke about Latinos, he's doing this, they couldn't even defend it. They probably couldn't even break it down as to why it could possibly be as offensive as you or I could even probably do. But they're offended. They're
Yeah,
triggered.
yeah. I mean, I think it comes with the territory. If you're trying to be funny, and you're ultimately probably going to offend somebody, I think. Um,
Right.
because most comedy, most humor is based off of observations. Like what your daily observations in life. I mean, I think that's true for any comedian, really. Um, and it's just how you see the world. And to me, I mean, I guess I do see the world. Like I don't see the world as like, oh, we're all one. What they say, we're all one race, the human race. I'm like, that's just stupid. We're not. We're all a bunch of different races. It's okay. It's not a
Yeah.
bad thing to say, oh, there are many races. Yeah, okay, there's a human race, but we're in different colors, we're different sizes, we're different shapes, we're different ethnicities, we're different religions. It's like instead of being afraid of that, you can either embrace it, um, and even use it as something to learn from, or you can ignore it. But like,
Yeah.
why act like it doesn't exist? Like that doesn't make racism go away. Acting like acting like that, oh, well, we all bleed red. Okay, great. Well, we all have different blood types too. So if you have a different blood type than me and I need a blood transfusion and I get it from you, I die. So technically, like your analysis is unsound, you know?
Right. I think of my own, when I think of like my own odd sort of things, like I'm the type of person, like I don't want to watch a Woody Allen film. I don't want to watch a Kevin Spacey film anymore. You know, I don't want to watch anything with Bill Cosby. I'm weird about watching Louis C.K. I'm very, very weird about those things. But if you told me that Charles Manson had like a book of artwork that came out or something, right? I'd be like, I want to take a look at that. Or when you tell me that it's like extremely demented, crazy psychopath sort of person, and there's like journals by them, or they did stand up, I'm gonna want to see that. And it's funny because it's so not right. If the one's not right, that clearly wouldn't be right. Or maybe the way I'm looking at it on the other side is wrong. Maybe you could make an argument as to what's the big deal about laughing at something that's fun. I don't really know. I don't know where you stand on that sort of thing, but I'm very, very particular about my art in odd ways.
Mhm.
But I definitely have an odd interest in some extremely, I don't know the right word. I don't know if it's depraved, whatever the word would be. Certain things like that, they just pique my interest. You know, I'm very uninterested in watching a racist do much of anything,
Yeah.
right? But when you take it a step further, I'm fascinated in an odd way. What is that, you know?
I don't know, man. I've thought about that in the past too. Is it okay to watch the Cosby Show still, or watch one of his stand-up routines? I mean, listen, the guy's a rapist. He's a fucking
Right.
horrible person, but you can't tell me that his stand-up wasn't on point.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
You know?
It definitely depends on what you connect with. So like I connect with individuals in certain art platforms.
Mhm.
When I go to a concert, I want to like the person I'm watching. I don't care about that they're a good singer. I don't even care that you're a good comedian if I don't like you,
Yeah.
right? But there does go back to that thing. There's an odd interest in extremely twisted, demented sort of people for me.
Mhm.
Don't know what it is. A lot of us have it. A lot of us have books on serial killers and stuff
Yeah.
when we're younger and all that. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Like the Woody Allen example is a big one for me, and Kevin Spacey, because I love some Kevin Spacey films. You know, when I was younger, American Beauty I thought was like such a cool movie. What a weird movie to watch now. Um, what a weird thing it is to watch a Woody Allen movie now and watch it with like a light sort of scope. But I mean, growing up, Annie Hall, Manhattan, um, whatever. He's had a lot of Sleeper. There's like a bunch of Woody Allen movies I loved at one point in time.
Dude, I remember reading Woody Allen books
Mm-hmm.
in college, and I thought they were brilliant. Um,
Oh,
I think it's weird. It's kind of weird, like, and I don't know why this is, and I have no justification for it. But if I see the Cosby Show on TV, I might watch it. I don't.
yeah.
I feel a little weird, but I kind for some reason I get over it. I don't know if that makes me a bad person or not. I don't get over it, but it's kind of like I still enjoy the show. Like I can remove myself from reality to watch the show. But Woody Allen, I can't. I can't watch a Woody Allen movie anymore. And I don't even understand how like anyone would work with that guy. Can you imagine being an actor and they're like, "Hey, Woody Allen wants you to do a movie." At a time, there, many years ago, being like, "Amazing! I get to do a Woody Allen picture." Now I'd be like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I don't want to be anywhere near that.
Dude, it's absolutely insane. In the jiu-jitsu community, there's a guy, Lloyd Irvin. You ever hear that name, Lloyd Irvin? If you look into him, I mean, the guy is cornering people in the UFC. I believe he was even on one of the Ultimate Fighters as a coach. He has a lot of gyms, a lot of Lloyd Irvin affiliates. It was big in the area, but at one point in time, there was nothing bigger in jiu-jitsu than Lloyd Irvin schools, especially in the United States. I have a good friend who's a Lloyd Irvin black belt in school. Anyway, there's all these, there's rape allegations, there's insane business practices. It's an insane laundry list that's not worth necessarily going over because I don't want to misquote. I don't have it in front of me. it is obvious the guy, like he even said, well, I didn't rape her because I couldn't get it up. Like essentially was one of his defenses over the years. But there's been way more things that have happened than that. Now, what makes somebody want to be an affiliate of that?
Yeah.
What makes somebody want to be influenced and a part of that and associated with that? People do. The schools are successful. It's a lawyer-driven school. People know the history. They choose to ignore certain things. They choose to not care about certain things.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I'm with you. I could probably watch The Cosby Show. I would feel weirder about watching his stand-up, but I probably could watch, like, if kids say the darndest thing,
Mhm.
I could probably get over it, right? I don't know why. I could explain it, but it doesn't even matter because that only just explains the way I work. It's not explaining what's right and what's wrong, you
Well,
know?
it's interesting that we're talking about this because we definitely see this in politics, right? So no matter which side of the aisle you call home, there's somebody in your group that has done some nasty shit, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like someone who raped somebody on the left, the right's all over it. Someone raped somebody on the right, the left's all over it. You know, you're both guilty. You know,
Mhm.
there's no. I mean, if you really want to take the moral high ground, you can't walk away or make excuses. But it's so like partisanship is so important. It's more important than morality, you know. And I don't think. I mean, I don't know what the background is on Gary Johnson, but like I met the guy a couple of times. I've talked to him. He doesn't really strike me as a rapist kind of guy, you know.
Right.
Like Trump, I totally believe
Right.
that. Clinton, I totally believe that. You know, it's a, but
100%.
like you know when they bring up about Clinton's, you know, the left was like they trivialize it. They say it about Trump, and then the right trivializes it. Even the evangelicals were like, "Oh, well, we all make mistakes." Oh, we do? Really?
Yeah.
We all make how many mistakes? That wasn't a fucking mistake. He did not give a fuck.
There's inevitable hypocrisies within our sensitivities.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to hear something that makes Trump come off as a sexist, and they are going to make that such an insane, especially younger people.
Mhm.
It's big with young people. Like, how could you ever possibly, you were the scum of the earth if you could vote for a sexist? It's like, yeah, but what is the alternative? Like a warmonger, a this, a that. They're all a lot of things that are terrible if you look at it like that. I always go back to, and again, it's like Obama's a tough one. Like even SNL, never willing to be. We've
Yeah.
talked about this before, and I hate constantly shitting on one of the coolest guys in the histories of presidents. But I mean, the truth is what it is. I mean, you look at drone strikes, you look at all sorts of warmongering stuff like that. It's a very, very dark thing that he was associated with. But Trump is a bad person, and he's in some people's eyes, Obama could do no wrong, and Trump is the devil. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but
Lion.
there's clearly hypocrisies
They're
in the
both
way.
horrible people, but Obama's
Yeah,
definitely
I
better.
like that stance. Yeah, they're both probably a high degree, or at this point, if you weighed the negative things that they've been a part of, no, whatever. And then it makes you wonder with this Woody Allen stuff, like how many people are out there like that? How many people are out there like Harvey Weinstein that make it okay to be Harvey Weinstein? Like we find out about these people, but how many of them are out there, known about it within the communities? Nobody talks about it. You know, Corey Feldman comes out, tries to talk about all these people. If there's a couple of them getting popped, if it gets more prominent, what really exists in powerful things? Like, when you hear these things about like children that go missing, like I'm not a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but like I'm assuming there's something there to this kind of stuff. I don't know.
Well, okay, so here's the weird thing. If you look at like Woody Allen and Bill Cosby, two guys that are fucking horrible people. There's not even a question about it. And I
Right.
think most people, I think the majority of people in this country will agree with that based on what we know about these people. There are more people that will criticize a celebrity who really has no influence on, you know, has no access to a nuclear button or to geopolitics or any of that stuff. Things that fucking matter, you know? We let that shit slide when it comes to the most important decisions a person can make. But when it comes to a comedian or a director, we're like, no, we're not gonna take that. That's wrong. You know? That's fucking weird, man.
So weird. It's really, I don't know, like go back to Joe Paterno. Was that his name? Joe Paterno at Penn State, or what's his
Yeah,
name?
yeah,
That
yeah.
that might be his name.
I think that was his name. Yeah.
Penn State guy. I mean, everybody knew. Everybody knew, or a lot of people knew that he was doing it. I'm sorry, Joe Paterno knew. Who was the guy who did it? It was a. There's actually a. Oh man, what is that guy's
He's a
name?
weatherman in Baltimore, right? That has the
The
same name.
same name. I was just gonna say that. Yeah, it has
So
the
stupid,
same name.
and he did a bit on that. He played in Baltimore, and he was like, not to make light of the situation, but you have a weatherman with the same name. Oh, who was it? Now I can't think of the guy's name.
I literally was thinking that when you said it. I was like, all right, well, I'll think of the weatherman first, or the news, whatever. The guy who's always on the news. Um, well, regardless, that situation, everybody or a lot of people knew that that was the thing. And they shook hands with this man. They played alongside this person. And it's crazy to me that something like that could be out there without it really getting out there. How could so many people know about this without it coming to light? Like, how many people know people who, I mean, this sounds crazy. How many people, especially in these higher social circles where you just feel this risk or you feel this protection of each other, or within your community, within your family, how many people know people who have molested somebody
Yeah,
and don't say anything?
yeah.
I don't know anybody. I know people that I think have probably somewhat sexually assaulted people. A lot of them had legal issues over it, whether or not they got convicted. I've heard rumor, somebody might smack a girl. I've heard of stuff like that, and I believe it. But I mean, I don't know anybody that I know did that who didn't get convicted. I knew one guy who was a psychologist who went to jail for molesting kids that he was seeing. But how can you be a part of that sports team? Think of all the reasons you fire coaches. Think of all the reasons coaches get fired out there in the world, especially it's a college coach. It's not even the NFL. Not that that makes it much worse, but
Right.
it does to me. It really does to me. Think about Catholic churches. How many people keep secrets or know or knew? Boy Scouts, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I hate just you throwing them under the bus as if it doesn't exist in other circles. But we know it exists in those circles, so we can at least talk about them and not just blame people we don't know about.
Yeah.
But how can that go on and people know about it and they don't get it out there? What the fuck, dude? That is insane to me. And when I hear these rumors, when I was younger and I saw that Bohemian Grove Alex Jones thing, I mean, not that I'm an Alex Jones guy, but when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. And when I hear this sort of thing, I don't believe that the Clintons are out there freaking worshiping Satan and doing all this crazy stuff like you
Right.
hear. But man, there is some weird stuff out there. I don't believe that the Freemasons are, whatever, but you get the point.
Well, you know what? Talking about this, it makes me think about the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. How
Yeah.
many
Oh my
famous
God.
world leaders were hanging out with that dude, and they didn't go just to hang out with him. You know what I mean? And it's like, and those guys are walking the streets like nothing happened. Nah, we're good.
To Trump's defense, this is like the one thing I will say to Trump's defense, and I could be wrong. And for all I know, the guy was out there boning kids with them all. Who knows, right?
Sure.
But yeah, exactly. It's like he was one of the only people that I think he banned or like had. And this could just be conservative propaganda that leaks this sort of information. It could be false information. So, um, but he was one of the only people known to like cut ties and like, I want nothing to do with this man ever. I don't want to be associated with that. Right. But the
Yeah, but that
Clinton
was
thing
after
really
the fact. He was already.
exactly exactly, man. Like he probably realized, okay, this is you got to get out while collect your wins and get out. Yeah, you cash out. But yeah, people, if you were somebody who thought Bill Clinton was the best president of all time, is that going to change your mind? No. Jeffrey Epstein's not. Finding about the warmongering is not going to change it. Finding out about the warmongering of President Obama is not going to change your mind if you think he deserved a Nobel Peace Prize. It's too much confirmation bias, and it's too hard of a pill to swallow. You know what we're talking about right now? Hard to swallow pills. Cell phone battery, nah, that pill's too hard to swallow. We don't want to swallow that one. The fact that there's boy section and girl section in toy stores, we want to tackle that one. Not a hard to swallow pill.
Yeah.
You know?
Or even if you approach those things, you talk about the cell phones, how many times do you see people, well, at least I see people on Twitter that will attack Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, for making all this money, and all these people are poor, but they have all this money, and they're part of the problem. But I'm like, but you're using their products. Or
Right.
you benefit from their products, whether it's an electric car, maybe you don't have an electric car, but you're a big believer in electric vehicles, or it's Amazon, maybe you don't order anything from Amazon, which is unlikely. But, somewhere along the line, that supply chain, you are connected to Amazon,
Yeah.
So you're right. It's like, we all have a threshold, I think. I'm
Yeah.
willing to accept this much before I have to call bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this is interesting. Halloween. Like how offensive would you find it if I wanted to be Adolf Hitler for Halloween? Right? Like Guar dresses up, they have Hitler come out. I mean, at least they kill him or do something, right? They're superheroes about it. But let's say I wanted to be Adolf Hitler for Halloween. Let's say I want to be Mr. T and I wear a little blackface. Maybe he's my favorite person ever. What if I'm the biggest Mr. T fan and I love him to death and I would just love to look exactly like Mr. T? And I find the perfect makeup artist. I put all this, I cannot wait to be Mr. T. I love him so much. I can't do that. But, Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has it in an episode.
Right. But if you love Mr. T, you would never do that because Mr. T would not approve.
Yeah, there's a factor. It's definitely a fine line. Like only a younger me would ever think something like that is like legitimately okay. Like there comes a point in time where you realize that stuff like that's wrong. But again, you could see the framework in which it's not inherently wrong. Just like your joke is not inherently wrong because it covers topics or it does things that is inevitably going to offend certain people's sensitivities.
Right.
It's not great to walk around dressed up like Adolf Hitler just to make a little gag joke. Right. There's a time and a place. A Guar concert's probably a better opportunity to have Adolf Hitler on stage or whatever. You get the idea.
Well, you make it interesting. If you want to go off Adolf Hitler, you go off of you can go as like a dead Adolf Hitler, or Adolf Hitler is zombie.
Exactly. Yeah, get something bad, right? Something distinctly slanderous towards him.
Right.
But it is. I do think about that as like such an odd one because you could see that's where like the intention versus offense, or it's like somebody could think, oh my God, there's nothing worse out there than this person who thought it would be a good idea to wear blackface to be Mr. T, but that same person, supports a president that does X, Y, and Z. They're lenient for that. Or their friend who's a defense attorney who knows that they are getting criminals off the hook for money. They're okay. They're just doing their job. Or the car salesman who sells the used car that they know is a lie and a fraud to that single mother who's scraping her pennies and nickels together to find the car at CarMax finally that she can get. No offense to CarMax, but and they're fraud. They're scamming this person. That person's just doing their job, or they're not the worst. You're the worst for Mr. T. Not supporting Mr. T'ing it. I don't have a strong dog in that one. I think it's wrong and I get it and I don't want to do it, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as somebody might make of it. That's how I see it, because look at all these big deals that people don't care about. And then look at the little deals that people care a lot about. Weird thing.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I think you bring up a really valid point. It's like sometimes things are too hard to take on, or sometimes you don't even want to take them on. I know I've definitely been in conversations where I'm talking about racial justice and it's all white people in the room. and people are looking at me like I'm an alien. Like, it's
Yeah.
almost like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no such thing as white privilege, and having that conversation with people. And I'm like, no, there kind of is, there
Yeah.
really is a thing called white privilege. And I know it exists because I've spent enough time in Baltimore doing shit that other black people have done and never gotten in trouble for it, but they did. But having that conversation, sometimes people are so like quick to be like, no, there's no such thing. I don't want to talk about it. You're wrong. And I'm like, I'm just trying to have a rational conversation. If you don't want to talk about it, that's cool. Like, I'm not, it's not like a hill I'm going to die on. Now, if you start dropping the N bomb and being like, intentionally racist, then I'm going to say something.
Right.
And then I'm out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not, I think we can only take so much. And I'm guilty of that. I'm sure I am. I mean, there's certain things I'm like, I just don't want to fucking talk about this, man. Cause it's like, I can't handle the reality of this, the
Yeah.
truth.
I think it's a good distinction to make that we are a libertarian podcast that is very well aware and will be the first to bring up that cops fuck over black people. So, like, duh. And yeah, but when you're in like all white circles in certain areas, people don't want to hear that, man. Some of them, they are really, I think it's a pendulum effect. Because people take it so far in one direction, they're the ones that try to balance it in the extreme opposite. Privilege is the best example of that. Like, no, okay, man, we're not trying to say that the only, or at least I'm not trying to say that the only privilege that exists is white privilege, and everyone else is just some form of oppress, some form of not having privilege, right? There's all sorts of things. So you see these people who have chips on their shoulders because they grew up dirt poor. They grew up without being able to have all these opportunities, or they think of all of the privilege that they didn't have, and they want to say, well, hey, I'm a white guy in this. Yeah, but see, we're making generalizations for people to understand things. There's always going to be subjective specifics, but it's just important to realize that privilege is a thing.
Right. Right.
You could take it as far as you want, and you could look at the privilege in all sorts of ways. And then, yeah, somebody could argue, yeah, but look at affirmative action. Look at this. How many people got jobs because they're this? And those people love spouting off those facts. Those are like the racists who like will be the first person to say, well, I'm not racist, but those are the people who are like, well, I'm telling you, I think you can do it. I'm the one who's trying to lift you up. I don't think you need the handouts. I don't think you need to rely on the government. You can get a job. You can do well. I'm that white guy. I hear him. God, this rural Jim. I love the people. They don't know any better. I love them, typically. Some of them I hate. One of them thinks he's Rush Limbaugh, and I hate him, and we butt heads heavily. He gets very racial. One time I almost got into a fight in the gym over this man.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was pro-Obama, he was going around the gym telling everybody I was pro-Obama, blah, 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 blah. And this is back, like, that was actually like a damning thing in this area, right? Like, people were coming up to me, oh my God, you're this and that. First of all, it was the second election. I'm like, well, I'm not. I actually like this Ron Paul guy. At the time I was like, that's when I was like Ron Paul was the second, I guess it was 2012. I was very Ron Paul. 2008, I was very Obama. And then eventually I just said, oh my God, to hell with it all. I think the world's just going to end. Like that's my political lineage. Well, this guy starts like a big thing over it. And he's telling everybody all this stuff. And then, I'm coming up hearing all this stuff about racially charged this. The racists come out of the woodwork that they were coming out of the woodwork like, oh my God, all of you guys are that racist and that worried. They thought that Barack Obama, like a lot of white people were legitimately worried that it was going to be black takeover, Muslim takeover, whatever. Did you know this Muslim church he went to, blah, 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 and then President Trump with the birth certificate stuff. Oh my God, remember when he was trying to say that he wasn't an American citizen? Jeez, dude, it's crazy. People forgot that one in a hurry. He was dead wrong about that.
That's the thing, with Newsmax the other day, they were getting sued by Dominion, and they had to come out and apologize, saying that, okay, we didn't tell the truth about the voting irregularities or whatever it was. And it was just like they put out a response about it. The damage has been done. You can't drop a bomb on a city and be like, you know what, I fucked up, my bad. Like, right. The damage is done. So, like, all the people that watch Newsmax or listen to Newsmax, they believe the lies that they've been told. They're not going to change their mind. And that's kind of like the new status quo. Like, I think I think that happened with the Washington Post and New York Times today too. Like I think they said something that was a lie about Rudy Giuliani, and they had to put out a what do you call it? What do you call it again when you put out something that's not true?
Oh, I know what you mean, but
Yeah, not
I
even.
don't know what it's called.
Can't even think of the.
Yeah.
Can't even think of it. Anyway, they had to come clean and say, we didn't tell the truth about this. It's like that's not okay. That's not okay. You can't just make shit up and be like, I was wrong. Because like that's the new thing now. Like people do that. Like all news sources do that, from CNN to Fox, left to right. They all fucking do that. They're like, oh, we fucked up. Nah, man, you didn't fuck up. There's a difference between fucking up and intentionally doing something and acting like it was a mistake.
Right.
And that's like the new thing, and it's really dangerous, man, because like you said, people are so loyal to their party or their political philosophy that once it goes in, it's not coming out.
I think that explains why people don't call out Hollywood when they're a part of it. They don't call out the Catholic Church when they're a part of it. It's that team, that group. You defend your group. You don't call your family out on their shit. You don't do certain things like that. Certain secrets, you don't do it. They're I don't know. I think there's a big link there to a lot of the stuff we've talked about, to the whole political thing
Yeah.
of being so tied to the left, so tied to the right. Just anything that makes your party look better is for the greater gain in the long run. They want to see it through that lens. So we're not going to look for the truth. We're going to look for the Democratic positive movement, the Republican positive. It's always just, yes, I agree with that. Goes back to that thing where like every Republican who was a Trump person, they would never say that Trump was an idiot and made stupid comments. They would say he needs to get off the Twitter. He needs to, they don't want to actually call it for what it is. They just need to say he needs to stop putting this stuff out there, right? They don't want to call him an idiot.
I really wish the Libertarian Party could appeal more to the left, because like we talked about this before, there are so many issues that would appeal to the left that are libertarian issues. But there's a messaging problem, because I don't see as much of this in the Libertarian Party in terms of, in fact, I feel like for the most part, libertarians are like the first to like call people out within the Libertarian Party if they start playing that game.
Yeah.
I would love that. And I think this is a drum that we will continue to beat, is the Libertarian Party's messaging problem.
Yeah.
It's like we're not going to get anywhere. Not just the messaging problem, but how you diffuse that information to the masses, because we're seen as fringe. But honestly, like to me, libertarianism there's nothing fringe about it. It's the simplest thing. It really is. It's very, very simple. And I don't know why that message is so hard. Maybe because the institutions of Republicans and Democrats are just so strong that it's just like no matter what we lob over, boom, they just whack it right back. Like you can't.
Yeah. I think that I hate being the person to say this in general, because oftentimes I think it's such a usually it's done for the wrong reasons or through the wrong person. But it would be nice to have, say, like, somebody like Proud. I'm sure there definitely are, but like, I think you've mentioned a libertarian woman in politics that you knew, or something. I believe you've mentioned a name of something like that, but I didn't know you were talking about. But like more people of color and more women would probably help people realize that it's not just like a bunch of, I don't know if people typecast it as being like a racist sort of thing, but I mean, you never know. In the sensitivities of today, it's probably easy just to look at all these white men and be like, oh yeah, well it's a white male thing.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't seen as that, because I think it's really so far from having anything to do with sex or race. Like, it's so far from that. And that should be a bigger selling point, is that, I do think that it should speak more to everybody in that way. I think more white men know about libertarianism.
There's a really great book called The Big Payback. And it's about the history of the business of hip hop. And it goes from like the early days back in the 70s up to Jay-Z. But it doesn't talk about the music or the lyrics or anything. It talks about the business of hip hop. It's very, very libertarian. It really
Yeah.
is. The basic constructs of how hip hop grew was very libertarian, because if you think about it, like when rap music first hit, it was like it was taboo, like the majority of the United States was like, we are not interested in this stuff. It's scary, it's they're speaking truth, they're speaking it in a different dialect, it's black people and they have a voice, and we didn't want black people to have a voice because that was not something that you typically had, not, at least not at that level. But if you look at the business of hip hop, what they did was, the hip hop community really took control of their own financial situations because they had to. In the
Yeah.
beginning, Warner Brothers wasn't signing rap groups, or Sire or Epic, whoever it was. Eventually they came around because they saw there was money to be made. But at first they didn't. So the hip hop community really took it to their own hands and made something out of it. Even if you look at Jay-Z's rise, dude's a fucking billionaire. He's like a legit billionaire. He didn't become a
Yeah.
billionaire because he let someone else take his product and market it and break him off a little something. He controlled the whole fucking thing. And that's a very libertarian, in my opinion, a very libertarian mindset. It's like the idea of you are responsible for yourself. You can't blame anybody else for whatever situation you may be in. If you're in a tough situation, then you got to figure out how to get out. Again, it's easy for me to say as a white dude. I get it. I highly recommend the book. It's a fascinating read. And even there's like a lot of shady shit that happened too. Like a lot of that early stuff was funded, by like, nobody knew where the money came from. It was drug money. They got around a lot of different things. They did a lot of illegal shit. But you know what? They kind of had to do illegal shit because they weren't allowed to play within the confines of the legal market. So they did
Right.
what they had to do. Now, what form of music today is more profitable than rap music or dance music, I guess, which is, an offshoot of some rap music.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. No, that sounds very fascinating and true.
It's a cool
Huh.
book, man. It's called The Big Payback. It's a pretty thick book, but it's a fairly quick read, about 1,000 pages. But I mean, it reads pretty
Yeah.
quick.
Cool.
Um, and yeah, I wish I remember who wrote it, but it was, man, it's a fucking great book. I think it's a good book, not just because I'm a big fan of rap music, but it just gave me an insight into something I love, but
Mhm.
also from a person who just really loves the idea of free markets, and I
Yeah.
really love the idea of overcoming odds in the world of business. Like you're gonna sell something or create something that the world is telling you they're like, no, we're not ready for it. And you're like, oh, you're gonna be ready for it. And I'm gonna make sure it happens, and I'm gonna make money in the process. I love that shit.
Hell
Like
yeah.
Elon Musk with the electric car. Everybody shit on that guy. Get the fuck out of here with this electric car. Now look at him. Second richest guy in the world. It's a big fuck you to a lot of people. I love that.
I love it too. No, it's not something that everybody's going to be able to figure out or do, but you definitely can't let that stop you from trying. I think at the very least, like, not that everyone should aspire to be that level, but to find some semblance of success and comfort and security, you definitely have to have the vision and the desire to make it happen.
Yeah.
Not saying it's going to happen. Hey, I might never make a lot of my goals might never come into fruition, but you got to fight the fight.
Dude, that's a good caveat, because seriously, I thought about that the other day. How every time, if you ever talk to someone who's famous or has been very successful, and they'll say, what message you have for people that want to do this or do that, and they'll always say the same thing: never give up on your dream, just keep fighting, never give up on your dream. Dude, 99% of people will never give up on their dream, and they'll never fucking make it. That's
Right.
life. It fucking sucks, man, but that's life. So yeah, it's like, yeah, keep doing it, keep working at it. Well, I think there's something to that because even if you never make it, how fucking boring is your life going to be if you're not even trying?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Some people have made it and they don't get to live the life I get to live following my dreams, not making it.
yeah,
I'd
right.
rather follow my dreams and not make it than make it at BG&E, than make it at, make it somewhere else that I'm not doing what I love or following my dream, right? Yeah, I don't know.
I, I
The
think
dreams change, but
I think sometimes too, maybe it's with younger people that they think like, I want to be a musician or I want to be a fighter or I want to be an actor, and I'm never going to give up my dream. But the problem is when they have to put the work in and the sacrifice. I think that's a big thing too. When you got to
Mhm.
work for no paycheck, not just once, but consistently
Yep.
until you've earned the privilege of getting a paycheck for what you're doing.
Right.
A lot of people don't want to do that. I mean, even like in the world of writing. So in my world, where I do a lot of finance writing, I've definitely been responsible for hiring people, and I've had people fresh out of college come in, and they're like, "I want 80,000 a year. I want 4 weeks vacation, 2 weeks personal time," and I'm like, I can hire a blogger to write me a blog for $5.
Yeah.
We start, well, at the time we were starting people off at 27,000 a year, and you get your full benefits after 3 months, after you're there for 3 months. And they're like, I got a college degree. I'm not going to do that. All right,
Yeah.
go 10 bar. I don't know what the fuck to tell you, man. Like, writers are a dime a dozen. The fuck makes you so special?
Exactly.
Oh, you have a college degree? Yeah, so do I. Big fucking deal. Doesn't mean shit. Unless you're
Mhm.
unless you're gonna be a doctor, unless you're gonna do something that requires some tangible fucking skills. But writers, come on, man. I can get a computer program to write shit for me. I can outsource this shit to India from people that don't
Yeah.
even speak English as their first language, and I guarantee it'll be just as good as anything you can write. It's like, so don't come to me talking about 80,000 a year, and people don't really, and I'm generalizing, but there's a lot of people that they want a lot of big things. They want the big reward. And it's not that they're not willing to work for it, but I think sometimes they're so naive they don't realize how fucking hard you have to work for
Yep.
it, you know?
There's a return. There's a return for it. But you got to put in that sort of work a lot of the times. Yeah.
I mean, think about
100%.
how you feel after you have a tournament,
Yeah.
okay? Like every fucking thing you put into that. I'm not even saying if you win or you lose. Like you just took yourself to a place that how many people could do that?
Right.
What percentage of the population could get there?
It wouldn't even matter. Like, it would be cool to make money off of it, but I enjoy paying to show up and do that. I pay to do it. People who run marathons
Yeah.
pay to do it,
Oh yeah, yeah.
even when they do it at a high level, you know?
That's what people say when you do CrossFit. They're like, "Why do you pay? Why do you pay to do something when you're done? You're like gasping for air and you're laying on the floor." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"I feel so fucking good, man. Like when I'm done, I feel fucking fantastic." And this is what you have to understand. Like for me, when I was in high school, I couldn't do a single pull up, and the gym teacher fucking made fun of me for that shit. I mean, that fucking destroyed me, man. I sucked at every fucking sport. I was the scrawny kid that got bullied all the time. So the fact that like I can go do something physical now, like I'm constantly like the low end of the class. Like if there was a competition, there's 50 people in my class, I'm probably gonna be like 47, 46 maybe if
Right.
I'm lucky. I don't fucking care, man. I'm doing it. That feels fucking great. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to do this for a living. This is not my job, so maybe it would be different then. But I think we've talked about this too. I think anything in life worth having um, is is going to require like some considerable effort and sacrifice. And if
Mhm.
you're not willing to make it, that's cool. Like that's fine. Some people just don't want to do that. But don't sit there and tell me that I'm going to be I'm going to be a singer if you're not practicing every fucking day. If you don't have or if you're not writing, or if you're not learning an instrument, or if you're fighting, tell me I want to be a fighter, but you're not in the gym every fucking day. You know what I mean? If you're not learning, that's a big thing too. People don't want to learn from people. I don't need any help.
Mhm.
Yeah, you do. If you need any help, you'd already be fighting.
That's a hell of a point. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure
Hmm.
you probably get that too with people that you train,
Oh
right?
yeah. I get it with everything, man. People tell me they'd be good at comedy. People tell me they'd be good at this. I could do that. I already know how to do this. They ask you for your help only to want to tell you what they're already doing and what they've tried and how much did you try it? How much did you really do? How much are you doing what you know? Or they just want to ask the questions to not put forth any of it. They want to be the person that knows everything about stuff they've never practiced. What's the point of knowing it? Sometimes people talk like politics and stuff. I love paying attention to the things that are important to bring up for understanding things and maybe keeping certain views in check, and it's nice to be conscious of things, but I want to know things I can have a practice in and an involvement in. What do I want to know what the best diets are if I'm eating Ben and Jerry's every night?
Yeah.
That's not right. If I'm not willing to follow what I know is right and I'm not willing to follow any path, what does it matter knowing more paths? I got people who just sit at home and they try to grants it, talk about all these things like philosophical views and all this. It's like, oh my God, you don't do anything. You don't do anything. And you want to be this person of great knowledge. I don't know.
Dude, I make an effort consistently to keep sweets out of the house. I mean, I know my kids always have sweets, but like ice cream, you mentioned Ben and Jerry's, I will fucking destroy a couple of pints of that shit easy. So I know that when the weekend comes, because typically in the weekend, that's when I like to get high as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I got to keep that stuff out of the house. Because if it's in the house and I'm high, like super high, I'm eating it.
Yeah.
So, and I know, like, I told my cousin this actually. I was telling him, I was like, yeah, I got to keep out of the house. He's like, well, dude, maybe that's some self control issues. You need to work on that. I'm like, the self control is me not buying it, okay? Because I
Exactly.
know that if I'm high, self control is off the table. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm making a proactive move to keep it away. It's kind of like stretching before you work out. You don't just jump into the workout. You got to stretch a little
Right.
bit, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
It's a horrible analogy, but you know what I'm saying.
No, I know what you mean.
Well, listen, this has been a great podcast. I don't really know how much libertarian-minded stuff we talked about today, but maybe I guess there's some. We talked about things that maybe people don't want to talk about, and I think there's some libertarian values to that. It's important to talk about things that. It's important to talk about race and acknowledge race. It's important to talk about your own preferences in life, whether it be for love or for your career or whatever it may be, or for sex. Doesn't matter. It's like they're
Right.
your preferences. You are allowed to have your own preferences and not be canceled for that. And I think that's a libertarian value. So I'm gonna spin it any way I can to
Yeah.
seem like we're sticking on topic, being
We
kind
related things through libertarianism more than enough, I think. Yeah, we definitely, yeah, I think so. Hey, it's kind of libertarian.
well, if anyone says that we're not being libertarian enough, then that's not a very libertarian thing to say.
Yeah, very true.
All
Very
right,
true.
brother.
Thank you.
Another great podcast.
Definitely.
See you next week, everyone.
Mhm.
Be well and be free.
Awesome.